Part 1. The Awakening of Earth's Prophecies. Approximately equals 1,000 words. Throughout history, civilizations have looked to the skies, the earth, and the seas for signs of the future. Ancient texts from the Bible to the Mayan codices, from Nostradamus to native prophecies, all speak of a time when Earth itself would cry out with warnings before a great global shift. Today, in 2025, many believe we are living in that very moment. From the earthquakes shaking unexpected regions to wildfires burning continents. From unprecedented solar flares disrupting satellites to strange sounds recorded beneath the oceans, the signs are undeniable. The question is not whether these events are happening, but what they mean. Earthquakes in safe zones. In the past year, nations that rarely experience tremors as such, as France, Brazil, and even parts of Africa, have seen mysterious seismic activity. Prophecy watchers tie this to Matthew 24-7. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. The Bible does not say earthquakes would only strike known fault lines. It says they would strike various places, and that's exactly what we are seeing. Fire and flood. A double prophecy fulfilled. The book of Revelation describes the earth suffering through both fire and water, two forces of destruction. Right now, as wildfires rage across multiple continents, floods simultaneously wash away towns in Asia, Europe, and North America. Scientists call this climate change, but prophecy scholars argue it is divine timing, aligning with ancient warnings that the earth will stagger like a drunken man. Isaiah 24 bonding 24. Signs in the heavens in 2025. Solar storms have grown so powerful that global communication systems are at risk. Space weather experts warn that a Carrington-level event, a solar super flare, could knock out the internet for weeks or even months. Prophecy interpreters point to Luke 21:25. There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. Are these solar storms part of that prophecy? Many believers say yes. Oceans roaring. Strange phenomena in the seas are also escalating. Whales beaching in massive numbers. Fish dying overnight in rivers. Even record-breaking tsunamis triggered by underwater volcanoes. Scripture foretold. The sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear. Luke 21:25-26. When we watch video footage of terrified crowds fleeing tsunami waves, it feels like we are living inside that prophecy. When we look at Earth's chaos in 2025, there are two explanations offered. One by science, and one by prophecy. At first, they seem to stand apart, but when you put them side by side, a shocking convergence appears. Earthquakes and the shaking of nations. Scientists explain the increase in global earthquakes as the natural shifting of tectonic plates. But prophecy teachers point to a deeper layer. The shaking isn't only geological, it is also spiritual. Haggai 2:11 says, "In a little while, I will once more shake the heavens and the earth, the sea and the dry land." Notice the dual meaning. A literal shaking and a symbolic shaking of nations, economies, and governments. And what do we see today? Alongside the earthquakes, nations themselves are shaking political upheaval in Europe. Currency collapses, wars breaking out, and protests filling the streets. The earth and the nations are trembling together. Climate chaos! The fire next time scientists speak of global warming, greenhouse gases, and record heat. They say human industry has tilted the planet's climate system. But prophecy speaks of fire in another way. As a cleansing, a purging, and a judgment. Peter 3:7 says, "The heavens and earth, which are now, by the same word, are reserved for fire, being kept until the day of judgment." And here's the eerie alignment. Wildfires in 2025 are beyond human control. Canada, Greece, Australia. Millions of acres of forest gone. Cities cloaked in smoke. Air unbreathable. It's as if fire has become Earth's new language. Science calls it a result of heat waves. Prophecy calls it a foretaste of purification. Either way, the flames are rising. Floods and the drowning of cities. Meteorologists describe floods as the outcome of atmospheric rivers and melting glaciers. But prophecy watchers point to Genesis 6-9, the flood of Noah, as a prophetic parallel. God promised never to flood the earth in the same way again, but he also warned that floods would return as signs of the end. In 2025, New York, Mumbai, and Venice are seeing waters rise higher than ever. Towns in Asia disappear overnight as rivers swell and dams burst. Insurance companies are collapsing under payouts. Jesus himself said, "As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man." Matthew 24-37. What defined Noah's days? Floods and human corruption. Today, we have both. Cosmic signs! Solar storms and falling stars. NASA warns of powerful solar flares capable of crippling global satellites. We have already seen GPS blackouts, disrupted internet, and airline chaos. But the Bible described this long before NASA. Luke 21:25-26 says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish at the roaring and tossing of the sea. People will faint from terror, apprehensive of what is coming on the world, for the heavenly bodies will be shaken." Now think about it when the sun lashes out with solar storms. When meteor showers strike Earth's atmosphere, and when comets blaze across the sky, people panic. Exactly as prophesied. Technology, AI, and the prophecy of knowledge, science boasts of the rise of artificial intelligence, saying it will revolutionize industries. But prophecy also predicted this. Daniel 12:4 says, "In the last days, knowledge shall increase." And here we are. In just one decade, AI has leaped from science fiction to controlling financial markets, replacing workers, even writing news reports. This explosion of knowledge is fulfilling prophecy before our very eyes. But here's the darker side. AI is also tied to surveillance, control, and a coming beast system. Revelation 3. Prophecy interpreters warn that AI is laying the foundation for a global system of control, a digital net that no one can escape. The science prophecy collision, so here's the key insight. Science and prophecy are not enemies. They are describing the same events from different lenses. Science says, "This is how it's happening." Prophecy says, "This is why it's happening." Science says, earthquakes equals tectonic shifts. Prophecy says, earthquakes equals divine shaking. Science says, wildfires equals climate change. Prophecy says, fire equals judgment and cleansing. Science says, floods equals rising seas. Prophecy says, floods equals days of Noah. Science says, solar storms equals space weather. Prophecy says, signs in the heavens. Science says, AI equals technological progress. Prophecy says, knowledge, explosion, plus beast system. Together, they form one undeniable truth. Earth is aligning with prophecy like never before. When you study prophecy, one pattern becomes clear. Before the final climax of history, the world enters a period of chaos, scarcity, and conflict. And in 2025, we are living in that very atmosphere. Wars and rumors of wars, Jesus warned in Matthew 24-6. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. What do we see today? Europe! The war in Ukraine drags on, drawing in NATO and Russia, with whispers of nuclear escalation. Middle East? New conflicts ignite as nations fight over oil, land, and religion. Tensions rise around Israel, the very land prophecy places at the center of the end times. Asia! China and Taiwan face off, while the Pacific militarizes like never before. These are not isolated battles. They're global chess moves, lining up exactly as prophecy foretold. The Bible described 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, Revelation 6. The second horseman, the red horse, represents war and bloodshed. Do we not see his shadow galloping across today's world? Famine and the black horse, Revelation 6 also speaks of the black horse, whose rider carries a pair of scales, symbolizing scarcity and economic collapse. He says, "A quart of wheat for a day's wages, and 3 quarts of barley for a day's wages." What does this mean? Food's so expensive that people work all day just to eat a little. Now look at 2025. Food prices skyrocketing in Africa, Asia, and even wealthy nations. Farmers struggling as floods and droughts destroy crops. Wheat exports disrupted by wars in Eastern Europe. Millions pushed toward starvation, even in modern cities. Just as prophecy predicted, famine is no longer a problem of the past, it's a headline of today. Economic collapse. The shaking of money prophecy warns not only of wars and famine, but also of the collapse of global systems. Revelation 18 describes the fall of Babylon the Great, a world system of trade and wealth. Listen to the imagery. The merchants of the earth will weep and mourn over her, because no one buys their cargoes anymore. Doesn't that sound familiar? Stock markets swing wildly. Nations drown in debt. Currencies lose value overnight. Banks collapse, leaving people panicked, and the world rushes toward digital currencies, exactly the kind of system prophecy watchers warned could be used to control who can buy or sell. The technology is here. The prophecy is being fulfilled. The fall of governments, the shaking is not just natural, it's political. Prophecy says in Matthew 24-7, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom." And today, governments everywhere face collapse. Protests in major cities from Paris to New York to Karachi. Leaders overthrown. Trust in politics at an all-time low. Citizens angry, fearful, and divided. The prophet Daniel foresaw a world of fragile alliances before the end. A kingdom like iron mixed with clay, partly strong, partly weak. Daniel 2:40, 143. Isn't that a perfect description of today's fractured world order? Plagues and pestilence prophecy also speaks of pestilences sweeping across the earth. Luke 21:11 says, "There will be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences in various places." And here we are. New viruses emerging after COVID-19. Old diseases returning, resistant to medicine. Hospitals stretched to their limits. Each outbreak reminds humanity of how fragile it truly is. Science may call it biology, but prophecy calls it warning signs of the end. The uniting of signs individually, wars, famine, plagues, and economic chaos are not new. But in 2025, all of them are happening together like a storm of prophecy. The red horse of war is riding. The black horse of famine is weighing food. The pale horse of death and pestilence follows. And behind it all, prophecy tells us, is not random chance, but the unfolding of a divine script. The tipping point. We are standing at a tipping point. History feels unstable, as if the world could collapse at any moment. Prophecy says this is exactly how it will be. A world so shaken that people cry out for order, even if it costs them freedom. That cry for order will lead to the rise of a powerful global leader, a figure Revelation describes as the beast. But that comes in the next phase of the prophecy story. Prophecy has been building like a storm. Earthquakes, floods, famine, plagues, and wars. But all of it points to something even greater, the final system of control that will rise before the end. The rise of a one world order. For centuries, people laughed at the idea of a global government. Nations were too divided, too powerful on their own. But now, as chaos spreads, people are demanding solutions. Wars make people cry out for peace. Famine and economic collapse make people cry out for stability. Plagues make people cry out for security. And prophecy tells us that out of this chaos will rise a system unlike anything before. Revelation 13 speaks of a beast with power over every tribe, people, language, and nation. For the first time in history, technology makes this possible. Satellites connect the globe. Artificial intelligence monitors movements. Digital IDs track identity. Digital currencies control what we can buy or sell. The world is ready for one system, one leader, one voice. The mark of the beast, Revelation 13, also warns of a mark, a symbol of loyalty to the coming system. It causes awe, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their forehead, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark. Think about this. Without digital money, how will you survive? Without government approval, how will you work? Without the mark, how will you buy food, medicine, or shelter? What once seemed like science fiction now feels dangerously close to reality. The prophecy is unfolding before our very eyes. The final choice at the heart of prophecy lies a choice. When the pressure comes, when the system demands loyalty, every person must decide. Will you bow to the system for survival? Or will you resist, even if it costs everything? Jesus warned in Matthew 24:13, "The one who endures to the end will be saved." This is not just about politics or economics. This is about the sola spiritual battle between light and darkness. The great hope in darkness, but prophecy is not only about doom, it is about hope. Every warning is paired with a promise. Joel 2:32 says, "Everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved." Revelation 21 promises a new heaven and new earth where God wipes away every tear. Yes, the earth shakes. Yes, nations fall. Yes, systems collapse. But beyond it all is the kingdom of God, unshakable, eternal, filled with peace. Prophecy is not designed to terrify you, it's designed to prepare you, not to break you, but to awaken you. The final warning of 2025. So what does prophecy say to us now, in this year, 2025? Do not be deceived by false promises of safety. Do not compromise your faith for comfort. Do not fear, because even in the chaos, God's hand is steady. The disasters, the wars, the famines, they are all birth pains, signs that a greater reality is about to break through. Just as a storm gives way to sunlight, prophecy says this dark age will give way to the greatest dawn humanity has ever seen. A call to watch and prepare. The time is short. The signs are clear. Prophecy is being fulfilled not in ancient books alone, but in headlines, in technology, in politics, in nature itself. Now the question is not when, but are you ready? Ready to endure the storm? Ready to resist false systems? Ready to hold on to hope when the world lets go? Because prophecy is not about predicting a date, it's about preparing your heart. Closing words, the earth is speaking. Prophecy is unfolding. 2025 is not just another year, it is a warning, a wake-up call, a crossroads in history. The disasters, the wars, the famine, the marcall of it points to a final truth. This world is passing, but a greater one is coming. So hold fast, stay awake, and remember, the prophecy is not meant to scare you, it is meant to save you.